So welcome back. We're now going live from the district with Congressman Mike Quigley of Illinois' 5th District. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it.
Sure.
Last night, you tweeted, "The only crisis here is the one the president himself created by shutting down our government. Absolutely despicable, but not surprising, that he used a primetime platform to spread even more lies, a continuation of what we've seen for the past 4 years. Check the facts." So where are we now as we head into day 19 of the shutdown?
Well, today I will manage a bill on the House floor to reopen one bill that governs the United States spending, the Financial Services General Government. Most significant in that is that it reopens the Treasury Department, including the IRS. Obviously a great concern with tax filing season coming and the fact that there's a new tax law in place and people will have a lot of questions. So in the rest of the week, the Democrats in the House will pass the remaining tax appropriation bills to fund the government and reopen the remaining sections closed by the president.
As I've been following this in recent weeks, I have just been wondering, where do we go from here, as it appears the president has totally backed himself into a corner over this. But how do you think this shutdown ends outside of Democratic efforts?
I think it has to be an organic effort. I think that the American public need to reach out, particularly to the senators, Republican senators, to support this legislation. This is an identical bill that we're passing this week to one that passed overwhelmingly with bipartisan support with the Senate just last month. Passed the same bill, put the pressure on the President of the United States. On Christmas, the President tweeted, "I'm all alone." He is, for a reason. He is, as they suggested, King Lear shouting at the winds, right? The Democrats and Republicans had a bipartisan, bicameral idea to pass these bills and continue to operate the federal government. It is wholly inappropriate to hold paychecks hostage and the health and safety of the American public because the president feels like he didn't get his way.
So you say that the president is all alone. We've reported that some federal workers are calling out sick and organizing protests. Do you support that?
Well, I completely understand what they're doing. I ask for their indulgence because I remind them the work they do is so critical. All I can do is apologize for the situation they're in. We're supporting legislation to make sure that furloughed employees get paid when this is over. I believe that we need to do everything in our power to get the government operating again. Unless we get support from senators on the Republican side, it's going to be very difficult. Because as you suggest, the president has painted himself in a corner, and I don't see a way for him to get his way out of this thing. Unfortunately, the only thing I suppose that could happen is the House and Senate pass legislation opening the government, and the president lets it sit there, and it becomes law even if he doesn't sign it. That's an unacceptable solution. Looking at it, to answer your question, I'm not sure there's another way out.
Do you support if federal workers went on strike?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Would you support if federal workers went on strike?
I would understand their situation, how frustrated they are, but I think that we have to appreciate how critical their work is, and I would ask them to stay at their post. I get it. My job is to get them open as soon as possible. I'm managing a bill toward that very end, but we appreciate the extraordinary dangers at play here. We're talking about safety inspectors. We're talking about TSA workers. We're talking about FBI agents. I am sorry for the situation they're in, but I would hope that they would stay at their post to keep America safe. And I apologize that the president has put them in this situation.
Well, switching gears a little bit to talk about the Russia investigation, where is the House Intel Committee now, and when exactly will the committee be sending its interview transcripts to Mueller and to the public?
There are some transcripts that are now being reviewed by the intelligence community, and those should be available fairly soon. As soon as the Intelligence Committee is constituted, which I would imagine would be in a couple weeks, it's my understanding that Chairman Mr. Schiff wants to approve sending all the transcripts immediately to the special counsel, and that the rest of them, the balance of them, be made available once they've been reviewed by the intelligence community. It's the first step in moving forward and reopening the investigation. I think it'd be a real eye-opener to the American public to see what we've learned so far, to see the involvement on the Democrats on the committee, and the sheer volume of evidence that my Republican colleagues tanked the investigations and then shut it down.
So this morning it's been reported that Rod Rosenstein will resign after the new Attorney General is confirmed. Does that news concern you?
Absolutely. There's an ongoing concern that the President and his attempts to influence the Justice Department will impair or shut down the investigation. I think it's incumbent on Congress, as their first task in the Mueller investigation, is to protect it going forward, and then to reopen the House investigation, have the power to subpoena documents, communications, and people, and bring them back so the American public know exactly what took place, how to prevent it in the future.
Congressman, before you go, we got one more question for you. In recent days, there have been a range of sexist attacks on freshman Congresswomen Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib. So what role do you think Democratic men in the House have in fighting sexism directed against your colleagues?
Yeah, I think we need to stand together, united, understanding an attack on anyone for any reason is attack on all of them. I'm paraphrasing John Lewis there, but I think he's a good example for that. When we were talking about repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, John Lewis made that point. I think we take Mr. Lewis's lifetime of accomplishments as men and recognize that an attack on anyone based on gender, based on race, based on age is an attack on everyone. We need to stand united behind all of our colleagues against this kind of hatred.
You're right, following the morals of John Lewis is usually a good way to go. So thank you so much for joining us, Congressman.
Thank you so much. Anytime.